Hey guys, welcome back to the course, and in this episode we're going to be looking at the effects. We've got our kick and our bass and our percussion down, and now we want to kind of enhance that with some nice kind of sweeps, some fills, some snares, a crash, just to really kind of create this kind of foundation, which is what I call it, the foundation of your track. It's not really the melodic elements, it's just the kind of foundation that helps chug your track along. We've got all of the energy and the kick and the bass and the percussion, and now we're looking at the effects, which are going to give that backing atmosphere and just help it smooth out all of the different kind of transitions and the different areas of the whole track. So first of all, we're going to look at the crash, and as you can see on the screen, I've got everything set up straight away to go. So this is going to be quite a simple one. This is very much just about EQing. You can really go ahead and choose which kind of sounds kind of fit your vibe. The downlifters and uplifters, to me, they're very kind of standard white noise or kind of like a synth which is kind of being pitched. I've done a couple of different effects here which are going to show you just a very cool technique for some transitional effects. And then the crash is, again, it's up to you. I like to find ones kind of in the similar vein as the open hi-hat. I want it to be quite kind of sharp and to the like in your face, but pushed back with lots of reverb. So let's just quickly have a listen to what the crash sounds like. Let's bring that down in volume. So again, a very kind of standard one, and it feels like a real life crash. It's again like the hats, I'm kind of going for that real drum kit kind of feel. Now with the crash, I like to take off quite a lot of low end. I like it to be like that, nice and kind of thin. I want this to just sit nicely in the background with the reverb, but it has enough kind of punch in the high end for it to come through. However, I do know this is going to be too much, so it's too much high end, that is. So let's just start to bring down some more, and let's play the track with everything else, and then just judge how much we want to take off. So that's getting there. Let me just turn on the loop mode or turn it off. So that's quite nice. Maybe take off some more low. Add in some high. And that's sounding quite nice. Quite a lot has been taken off, as you can see. That is a substantial amount. But the crash is still sounding pretty nice. Let's go ahead and add on some reverb, and for this I want really big reverb. Plus 15 seconds, take off all the low. I want to add some high back in, big room size, cut of warmth. Let's see how that sounds. Almost there. Let's take away some more of the low. Let's add in some of that high. That's sounding really nice. It's got that nice amount of high end that I put back in there. Really helps the crash kind of continue on for longer, because obviously we've taken off a lot of the low end, so not much of that reverb was acting on it. So we wanted to add that high back in all the way up to 16.8 kilohertz. So all the way up to around this area. So everything below is having the reverb on. Sounding very nice. And then let's just go ahead, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this crash. So I'm going to clone it, and now I'm just going to call it reverse crash. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click it in, make sure it's on the right MIDI clip. Click in my notes, I'm going to go and open the sample, and I'm simply going to reverse it. Now because we're putting it in as a MIDI clip, we now need to move this so it fits, and it fits at the end of the phrase. So let's just have a listen to see how that sounds, and I'm also going to create a new channel, and let's put that onto the new channel. Okay. For some reason the Reverb didn't copy over. There we go. There's crash. And what I'm looking for here is I want it to restart the crash kind of sequence. I want it to finish just before it restarts. So that's sounding nice. So it's got that gap just before the main crash restarts. Very cool, very simple. Now let's go on to our snare. We've got a very simple 16th pattern with some 32 or 30-second notes at the end. And again, this is all about choosing the right sounding samples. Getting the right sounding strong samples to begin with is going to make your life a lot easier. So I'm just going to put on an EQ. Very, very simple. We'll come back to a lot of the volume wise later on. Let's just get everything in. So next up, we've got some downlifters, and I'm going to turn the volume down considerably on these because they can be very loud. Got 2 of them. Nice white noise. And then more of a kind of tonal one. Doesn't really sound like much at the minute. So I've got all of my so uplifters and downlifters linked to the sweeps bus, and on here I've simply got a low cut because we don't really need any sort of the low end on these sweeps below 300. They're mainly going to be in the mid to high range. A little bit of a high cut just to shape off some of that top end of the white noise that can get a bit harsh. I've then just got some reverb on, not too much, 1.5 seconds. Decay, 42% on the reverb, taking out the low end again, taking out the high end, making sure that's not there because we don't really want too much of the high end kind of coming through. So now if I press play, so we can hear now we've got the sidechain and that reverb just kind of helping it to kind of continue on afterwards after it's finished. And that mainly works and works best with the uplifters, because a lot of times you can have an uplifter and without the reverb, when it stops, it can stop very suddenly and there's nothing else to kind of continue on. With this reverb helping it just kind of fall down just very slightly for this next bar, it just helps that transition become a lot smoother. In trance, we want to have very, very smooth transitions, particularly in uplifting trance. In tech trance, maybe not so. You can get away with very short, cutty, kind of sudden changes. I've done it a lot in my kind of Psy uplifting sound. It works really nicely with that. But in the uplifting part of my Psy uplifters, I always want to make sure these transitions are as smooth as possible. And adding that extra bit of reverb on just helps it so it doesn't feel such an abrupt change at these kind of different transitional moments. So I want to move the uplifters. So I've got the uplifters connected, uplifter 1 and 2, to their channels, which again is going through to the sweep bus. Let's pull down on the volume. That's sounding nice. Maybe let's bring the white noise downlifter up a bit and that tonal one down a bit. Sounding good. And you'll notice I haven't put anything on the actual mixer channels themselves. I'm leaving all of the work done on the bus here. This isn't really something that I need to do, this long process chain. This is a very simple thing. This is why it's up to you to how complex you want to get with it. With this kind of vibe, it doesn't need to be anything too special. They're really there just to serve the purpose of being in the backgrounds to help the kind of transitions. Next up, we've got a really, really long white noise. We're not going to be using this until very later on. So it's just a very long uplifter. So we're going to keep that muted for the time being. This is going to be used for like the main transitions and the main breaks and builds. So we want to kind of add in a nice little transition section here of some fills. So let's just go ahead and pull back on these uplifters And I've just got some nice kind of impacts going on here. Let me turn those down. And I quite like this idea of the kind of old classic sound where instead of having big crazy drum fills, you just have these nice kind of impacts that happen on the start of the last bar before the kind of transition to kind of signify that something's going to happen. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some EQ and take off a lot of the low end of these two impacts. And straight away we can hear that just kind of signifies that something's about to happen, that we've got this extra kind of transition about to happen there. So let's just go one step further and not delete what I wanted to show you. There we go. And we've got a couple of fills here. Let's start with the first one. These are from the Sonic Academy packs. And let's just listen to this first one. Pretty cool, nice big snare hit. And then let's listen to this second one as well with it at the same time. So not sounding great, it's sounding a bit static at the moment. So you might be able to see I've just added some extra bits to this and some cuts. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove that section there, and then I'm going to move this one across. I'm going to cut it so it's just half. Then let's move this back to the beginning. And now what I'm doing is just melding the two together, so we get a bit more of a smoother kind of transition there. So that's starting to get there, but still very, very abrupt. Let's just put some EQ onto these snares. So it sounded pretty cool like that when you don't hear the rest of the transition. It's still very dry. So let's go ahead and add some reverb. Reverb is going to be your key for a lot of stuff in this series, and just in general. Reverb is a fantastic tool to help meld stuff into the back of your mix. If you feel like something is too far forward or it doesn't sound quite right, adding some reverb can just completely change the vibe of it. So let's have a listen to what that sounds now. That's sounding good. Let's now hear with the rest of the track. So that's sounding nice. Maybe let's pull the volume down of that first fill. In fact, let's keep that in. That's sounding a lot nicer. We might come back and tweak that. In fact, let's just add one final EQ on the bus just to enhance it that little bit more. And then let's bring it down in volume. There we go. That's fitting in the mix a lot nicer. Almost there. One final more kind of effect we're going to use. And again, this is only going to be used for the main transitions. We are going to do a synthesizer using Anna. And I've chosen under the Trance Takeover presets that I was given to do this course with. Really fantastic, by the way. And I think I forgot to mention I used those within the bass lines as well. Really, really nice pack that Sonic Academy have done. And I love this synth as well. It's just got such a nice sound to it. Real kind of analog, as the name suggests. And basically, this is just a single note. And what I've done is I have automated the pitch here. And then I've added a balance control, which is just a volume controller, and automated that as well. We've got one long note for 8 bars. And then let's just automate the pitch. So the starting value should be 50. And then we're going to go up to 100%. And let's just say back down to 50 there. And then we're going to automate the volume as well, so it doesn't come in too strong. And let's have a listen to that. And remember, we're using in the key of C minor at the beginning. So we're going to use the C note for the beginning. And then in the breakdown, we can change that to the G sharp to make sure that it fits with when we change the G sharp major. So pretty standard, not really much going on there. Again, I've just got a low cut and a little tiny boost on the high, and just a kind of reasonable amount of reverb on there as well. So that's pretty much it for the effects. Again, you can really go as complicated or as simple as possible. In fact, we've got one more to go, almost forgot. We've got an effects kick, so this is going to be just for the breakdown, just for when we're using these final kind of effects. And it would be something like this. Let's just put a tiny bit more reverb on so that has that longer tail. We're going to go about 10 seconds. We want quite a long one with this, big room size. There we go, that's sounding a lot nicer. So that's your final kind of sound effect that we want to use. So there we go. Like I said, yeah, very simple, but you can go as more complex as you want depending on the vibe. With Uplift and Trance, the backing effects aren't really going to be something too over the top. Usually kept quite simple, not too kind of crazy, but you can go as crazy as you like. It's really up to you. I'm just showing you how I'm going about remixing this track and what I would do. My main focus in the next few episodes is going to be on the melodic stuff. That's where I will shine better with this course. If it comes to tech trance, I would shine better with the effects and all the incidentals. Same with Psy or Psy uplifting. With your straight up uplifting trance, I really want to focus on a lot of the melodies. So we're going to be looking at those in the next few episodes, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.